So, yeah, we're going for a hat trick today. This is the third chapter of the story that I've recorded today, so yay, as they like to say in places, I suppose, where yay happens. Anyways, yes, podcast, yada yada, new merch in the store, check that out. If you like the thick ladies, I have a thick lady for you. Pew pew, yep, she'll shoot you in the heart, so you better buy it. And on coffee cups, because yay coffee. Just a quick shout out to the T5 peeps. Bob the Dragon, Cat Crab Lobster, Data Magnet, Dark Machine, Bezic, Try Again 95, Fudic Yol, Astrea the Dreamer, Casper Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Ithilia, Meridian 117, and Jordan Bucksmorm. Thank you very much. Anyways, on to the story. All about the Lynae, Part 10, Water is Dry. The Lynae have an awfully dry sense of humor for a species that spends so much time in and around water. In fact, most members of the aggregate do not understand when the Lynae are joking at all. In an effort to avoid damaging relations with trade partners, Lynae do not call out or explain their jokes to other species. When a trade partner corrects a Lynae, the Lynae will only thank them for the detailed explanation. If it would for the Lynae former members of the Dross team, it's likely their sense of humor would never have been exposed to scientific study. The Week Review of Ontological Species Study. All about Lynae, Water is Dry, published by Glass and Steel. All about Lynae, Translation Engine 3.1415. So, when are we landing on Steve's Island? Captain Raccoon called back to the team. Do you know where exactly Steve died? Zoe asked. I do. You think there, then, the captain said. After starting the Isle of View, the next instruction says, to die will be an awfully big adventure, so, yeah, I think that's where we start, Zoe said. How many other people know where Steve died? Narif asked. Good question. The captain flipped a couple switches and said, only my mate group. We got the message from Steve asking us to take him home. But when we arrived, he was already dead. The map and the note addressed to me were all that were on him. The note said, I did it. And your mate group wouldn't share that information with anyone else, even accidentally? Zoe asked. Sure, and they wouldn't share that information on purpose, Captain Raccoon said. It would give no benefit to the group and would cost us dear. However, it's always possible that someone could be tricked into sharing that information. Our little subterfuge won't stand a chance if someone shared the information. But if they were only tricked, it's hopeful that this will still work. Hopeful, Alan said. That's one of my favorite words. Captain Rackham landed the ship and the bottom tip of the island as gently as Quirrell could have done. He stood up and headed back into the cargo area of the shuttle and pulled out some expedition suits. We have suits to deal with the heat. They're fully charged, so they should at least last for 10 days, and the non-such will be back before then, the captain said. Hopeful, and Al should, Alan muttered. All of my favorite words in one spot. Zoe pulled his suit on. Stop grousing, Alan, she said. If they weren't your favorite words, you should never have joined the expedition team. I like grousing, Alan said, and I never wanted to be on the expedition team. I wanted to be a lumberjack. Ow! Said Alan, rubbing his shin bone. What's wrong with being a lumberjack? Quirrell asked Zoe, since she was now the one that had kicked Alan. Not a thing. But Alan likes misquoting Monty Python, and that's an unforgivable sin, Zoe said. Unforgivable sins calls the reflex action of me kicking him in the shin. Just one of those things, she said with a shrug and a smile. So, Monty Python is a holy man to humans, Quirrell said. Nate snickered. That about sums it up. Monty Python, Zoe declared as she zipped up her suit, was the greatest comedy group to ever grace the human world and deserves our eternal irreverence. Ah, I understand, Quirrell said. Humor is sacred to humans. Nate finished putting his thermal harness on Fubsy and then zipped up his own suit. Things to watch out for, overeating, large amphibious reptiles and rock slides, he said. And anything not caught by the first expedition team, Zoe added. Thanks, Mom and Dad, Alan said. We know the drill. Quirrell whispered to Tariff. Did you bring a drill? Tariff nodded back. I've got you covered. They all stepped out of the shuttle and Captain Rackham sealed up behind them. Zoe looked at him curiously. Captain Rackham, you served on a number of expeditions, haven't you? She asked. I have, he agreed, but I became captain on my own ship to cut out the middleman. It felt like too much danger for not enough reward, because too much of the fee had to go to the ship that carried us. One of my mate group helps the rate planets, so we know which planets we want for our expeditions, which ones have the greatest cost-benefit analysis for the group. Interesting, Zoe said. Maybe we should think about something like that for our group. Captain Rackham raised an eyebrow. I will take more than 6 of you to run a ship. As far as I can see, Quirf is the only one amongst you with flight experience. Alan spoke up. I've got a little. Not as much as Quirf, but some. Nate pulled out a map and looked at it again. This map shows a line starting at the bottom of the heart and heading straight up, about halfway up to the heart. There's another line. Give my regards to Broadway. Hopefully, we'll figure what that means when we get there. Nate looked up at the sky and then pointed out a direction. That way, I think. Think, Alan muttered, and there's another. Ow! He glared at Nate, who was looking innocently in a different direction. At least you two picked different shins, Alan said. You're welcome, Nate said. Helmet is on, and let's see how far we can get before we need to make camp. What is a Broadway? Tariff asked. It is a place on Earth famous for singing and dancing, Nate said. Not sure how that's going to turn into a clue for FTL treasure. The team, the captain, and the 2 bearer droids headed in the direction that Nate had pointed. This world had no magnetic north, but they were using the rising and setting of the sun as their east and west, and making them rest up as they went. Nate had point, with Alan and Quirf behind him. Terra, Fubsy, and Nerif were in the middle, the 2 droids trundling along behind them, and then Zoe and the captain. Zoe walked beside the captain for a little while and then said, Captain, when we were looking for the troll in our cabin, how come you never suggested we look for a carrier? Didn't I? Captain Raccoon looked surprised. You said he, and I'm sure I figured you were looking at both males and carriers. I didn't actually check which options you all were looking at, as my compad got passed around. Zoe said. When we stop tonight, we can check my compad for the photos of carriers, he said. Finding that mole will be a relief off my mind. Did you download your entire ship roster to your compad? Zoe asked, surprised. No, but, looked embarrassed. We can't connect to the nonsuch while she's in FTL, and even when she drops out in the next planet drop-off, if we contact her, the mole would undoubtedly be able to determine our position. Undoubtedly, Zoe agreed dryly. I'm not used to being away from my ship, he said, as by way of explanation. Guys, Nate called out from up front, I think we've got our Broadway clue. Zoe and Captain Rackham picked up the pace and joined the team in front of the rift that split in front of the path that they were taking. One rift was narrow and would be extremely difficult to travel through, and the other rift... Oh, my sainted aunt, Zoe said. It's a Broadway. Bubsy came up to her and rubbed her head against Zoe's knee. Zoe bent over and scratched behind Fubsy's ears. You know how I feel, don't you, girl? You feel my pain, Zoe said. End of chapter. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed. There are links down below, both to support this channel and for the author of this fiction. Anyways, I hope you all have a fantastic one, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.